To help the girl next door escape her family's business-arranged marriage, I became her husband of convenience. On the night we registered our marriage, Sue Wanking, usually so gentle, handed me a quilt with a distant smile.
Suyu, she said. Thank you for your help. You can just sleep in the guest room. Once the fuss dies down, we'll get a divorce. I won't hold you back.
I nodded and picked up the quilt. In the middle of the night, the door was quietly pushed open. Sue Wanking, wearing a silk nightgown and carrying the faint scent of a recent bath, directly climbed into my bed. She leaned close, her breath a delicate whisper by my ear, yet her voice trembled slightly.
My brother has people watching us. There are cameras installed at home, so we have to make it look convincing.
Hugging the quilt, I walked towards the guest room. The moment the door closed, all traces of politeness and aloofness vanished from Sue Wanking's face, leaving only weariness. Through the crack in the door, I saw her leaning against the wall, slowly sliding to the floor. This was Sue Wanking, the older sister I had known for over a decade. Since childhood, she had always been the perfect child, beautiful, accomplished, and unfailingly gentle and graceful. But now, her family was forcing her to marry a man she disliked, Chin Fong. To help her, I agreed to this preposterous marriage of convenience. Lying on the guest room bed, I smelled the unfamiliar perfume on the quilt and spent the night wide awake. In the middle of the night, a faint sound came from the door. I immediately closed my eyes, feigning sleep. Light footsteps approached, stopping by my bed. The familiar yet unfamiliar scent of her shower gel drifted into my nostrils. It was Sue Wanking's fragrance. She seemed to hesitate for a long moment. Finally, one side of the mattress gently gave way. She climbed onto my bed. The rustle of the silk nightgown was exceptionally clear in the silent night. She leaned close, her warm breath ghosting my ear.
My brother has people watching us. There are cameras installed at home, so we have to make it look convincing.
Her voice was reedy, carrying an almost imperceptible tremor. I could feel her body's stiffness, rigid as ice. It all became clear to me. Suja, the eldest brother of the Su family, was famously overprotective of his sister. There was no way he'd use such tactics to coerce her. The excuse was laughably flimsy, but I didn't expose her. I offered a cooperative, feigning being roused from sleep, and rolled over. She gasped, losing her balance and pressing flush against my back. I could distinctly feel the softness of her breasts and the frantic drumming of her heart. She immediately tried to recoil, but I used the momentum to turn, pulling her closer into my embrace.
The cameras are thermal imaging. We have to be closer.
She concocted an even flimsier excuse in my arms, her voice barely a whisper, like the hum of a mosquito. Yet her body tensed even further. I chuckled softly.
Sister, don't be afraid, I won't do anything to you.
In the darkness, I couldn't discern her expression, but I felt her breath hitch instantaneously. After a long pause, she finally relaxed in my arms, though her body remained icy cold. I held her, as one might hold a piece of precious jade that needed warming. She thought I was asleep. I felt her stealthily lift her head, her gaze tracing my features. In that gaze, I sensed tension, dependence, and even a hint of infatuation I couldn't quite bring myself to acknowledge. I intentionally shifted slightly. She instantly snapped her eyes shut like a startled rabbit, even holding her breath. This woman, who was fiercely decisive and unyielding in the cutthroat business world, was adorably clumsy in my presence. As dawn approached, she tiptoed off the bed and slipped back to her own room, as if everything from the previous night had been nothing more than an intoxicating dream. At breakfast, she reverted to her persona as the elegant, unapproachable CEO of the Su Group. She pushed a black card across the table toward me.
This is your allowance, she said. Don't be frugal with it. The password is your birth date.
She avoided my gaze, her eyes darting nervously.
From now on, in public, you are the Su family's son-in-law. You mustn't let anyone look down on you.
I took the card, my fingertips brushing hers. She flinched back as if struck by lightning. Watching her feigned composure, I already had my answer. This charade, I suspected, wasn't just for her family's benefit. It was for herself as well. The weekend brought the Sue family banquet. This was my first official visit to the Sue household as their son-in-law. The villa was opulent, and a long dining table was filled with Sue family relatives. Their expressions, as they looked at me, were an unconcealed mix of disdain and scrutiny. How could Wanking find a kid like this? He looks like he hasn't even graduated yet, right? I heard he's from an ordinary family. He's really latched onto a powerful family, hasn't he? Young people nowadays, they'll do anything for money, completely devoid of backbone. These comments, neither too loud nor too soft, were just audible enough to reach my ears. My expression remained unchanged as I sat quietly beside Sue Wanking. Under the table, Sue Wanking's hand quietly clasped mine, her fingertips icy cold. She started to speak, but I stopped her with a glance. Just then, a stir came from the doorway. Chin Feng had arrived. He was wearing a bespoke suit, his hair slicked back, a self-satisfied, arrogant smile on his face. He had a heavily made-up woman on his arm. Seeing that woman, I froze. It was my ex-girlfriend, Zhou Qian. Back then, she'd scorned my poverty, running off with a wealthy scion after graduation. I never expected that scion to be Chin Feng. When Zhou Qian saw me, she was first shocked, then intense jealousy and malice erupted in her eyes. Clutching Chin Feng's arm tighter, she walked up to us.
Lin Yu, I never thought you'd be here too, she spoke in a sarcastic tone, her gaze sweeping over me before finally landing on Sue Wanking's face. Well, CEO Sue, is this the man you'd rather break off an engagement for? Your taste is truly something else.
Chin Feng put his arm around Zhou Qian's waist, as if showing off his trophy. He looked at me with contempt, as if I were an ant. CEO Sue's taste is certainly unique. To reject me, Chin Feng, for a toy boy like this. Lin Yu, you're quite a piece of work, finding a new meal ticket so quickly, and a golden one at that. At the dining table, everyone had stopped, waiting to watch the drama unfold. The Sue family elders' faces were grim, yet no one uttered sound. My fingers tightened around the dinner fork, my knuckles turning white. I was about to speak. Sue Wanking, however, rose to her feet first.
She looked coldly at Zhou Qian, her voice like tempered ice. My husband is not for you to judge.
She then turned to Chin Feng, the temperature in her eyes dropping to freezing. As for my taste, it's certainly superior to yours, Seo Qin.
At least, I don't pick up other people's discarded trash.
The entire room fell into a dead silence. Zhou Qian's face instantly flushed a mottled purple, trembling with rage. Chin Feng's smile froze on his face, his gaze so dark and venomous it seemed to drip with venom. Sue Wanking no longer looked at them. She sat down, gently smoothing my collar, which wasn't even disheveled, her movements soft and delicate.
Don't get angry with them. They're not worth it.
Her voice was very soft, audible only to me. I looked at her. She still wore her cool, aloof demeanor, but her slightly flushed earlobes betrayed all her nervousness and concern. She wasn't acting. She was protecting me. A warm current surged from the depths of my heart, almost engulfing me entirely. So, the iceberg truly would melt for me, even if it was just a single facet. The banquet broke up unceremoniously. On the way back to the villa, Sue Wanking remained silent. The lines of her profile taut with tension, the atmosphere in the car was rather stifling.
Sister, thank you for today, I said softly.
She turned her head to look at me, her gaze complex. We are husband and wife, aren't we?
After saying this, she turned her head back, falling silent once more. That night, as expected, she came to my room again. This time, her excuse was even more direct.
Chin Feng was there today. He'll definitely suspect us, so we have to make our act more convincing. She lay beside me, her body still rigid.
As I held her, I could smell the faint scent of shampoo in her hair. The suspicion concerning the cameras in my mind had now reached its peak. The next day, after she left for the office, I opened my laptop. This was no ordinary computer. My fingertips flew across the keyboard. lines of complex code flashing across the screen. I use my identity credentials to initiate a military-grade professional signal scanning program. Invisible waves of energy radiated outwards from the villa center. 10 minutes later, the results appeared on the screen. The entire villa, apart from the standard security systems at the entrance and along the perimeter walls, contained not a single hidden listening or surveillance device. None at all. I leaned back in my chair, a profound understanding dawning on me. She had been lying to me all along. But why? If it was merely to find an excuse to share a bed with me, why would a female CEO worth tens of billions resort to such a clumsy method? I rose and paced through the villa, impulsively, as if guided by an unseen hand. I found myself in her study. The study was large, with one wall entirely covered by bookshelves, laden with various books on finance and management. I helped her organize a stack of scattered files on the table, intending to return them to the bookshelf. My arm accidentally brushed against a nearby stack of books, knocking them over. The books tumbled to the floor with a soft clatter. A delicate wooden box with a combination lock fell out from the pile of books and rolled to my feet. The box was made of rosewood, intricately carved with exquisite patterns, clearly cherished by its owner. I picked up the box, examining the 4-digit combination lock on its surface. A thought flashed through my mind. I tried entering my birthday 0926. With a soft click, the lock sprang open. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the box. Inside, there was no gold, silver, or jewelry, only a diary and a thick stack of photographs. Every person in the photographs was me. There were shots of me playing basketball in my high school uniform, my jersey drenched in sweat, my profile as I sat reading by the window in the university library, and the disheveled side of me being tossed into the air by classmates at my graduation ceremony. Each one was a candid shot. My hand trembled slightly as I picked up the diary. Opening the first page, I found delicate yet familiar handwriting. The date was 10 years ago. Today, new neighbors moved in next door. Their son is named Linyu. When he helped me move things, he smiled at me. He was so handsome. I turned page after page. Xiaoyu was playing basketball again today. I pretended to be just passing by, but I actually watched him for an hour. He seems to have boundless energy, like a little sun. I don't want to marry Qin Feng at all. I don't like him one bit. If only I could marry Xiaoyu. Even if it were fake, I'd be willing. I told my brother I want to marry Xiaoyu. He disagreed, saying we weren't suitable. What should I do? Is the camera excuse too flimsy? He's so smart. What if he's already figured it out? I'm so scared. At the end of the diary was a photo of her and me after we registered our marriage. In the photo, we stood very close, but our expressions were both somewhat stiff. She had written a line of text beneath the photo. Linyu, I finally married you. I sat on the cold floor, clutching the diary, my heart pounding uncontrollably. So, what she had so carefully hidden away was a heart that had loved me for all these years. And this marriage of convenience was her long-conceived plan to finally be with me. I looked out the window as the sky began to darken. Su Wanking, you fool. Did you know that I've also liked you for many years? I squeezed the diary tight in my hand, a daring plan beginning to form in my mind. Since you've started the prologue, then I'll direct the rest of the play. That night, after I showered, I didn't return to the guest room. I went directly to Su Wanking's master bedroom. She had just emerged from the bathroom, wearing the exact same silk nightgown whose scent I'd recognized last night. Her wet hair draped over her shoulders. Seeing me, she froze entirely, her face etched with utter panic.
Why are you here? She instinctively clutched the neckline of her nightgown tighter, her eyes darting away, afraid to meet my gaze.
I reached back and closed the door, locking it. The click was exceptionally clear in the quiet room. She flinched at the sound. I walked towards her, step by step. She retreated step by step, until her back pressed against the cold wall with nowhere left to go. I cornered her between myself and the wall, then leaned down, my lips close to her ear.
My brother said sleeping in separate rooms is too fake. I've come over to act the part. I deliberately mimicked her tone from last night, lowering my voice.
Her entire body trembled, her cheeks instantly flushing crimson, like ripe apples.
But, she stammered, unable to form a complete word.
I didn't give her a chance to continue. I raised my hand, my fingertips brushing the still dripping ends of her hair, then gently hooked a strand of it, bringing it to my nose to inhale.
Shampoo, still that same scent. My voice was soft, yet carried an undeniable invasiveness.
Her breathing completely faltered. I leaned down, my warm lips touching her earlobe, mimicking her from last night, breathing softly.
We have to make it look convincing, right, Ching-Ching, the name, Ching-Ching, I uttered softly and slowly.
She trembled violently, as if struck by an electric current, rendered completely speechless. I could feel her cool, hard shell shattering inch by inch. I curved my lips in satisfaction. The next moment, I swept her up into my arms. She gasped, instinctively wrapping her arms around my neck. I carried her towards the large double bed. In my arms, her body was pliant, warm and fragrant from her bath, like a lamb caught in a snare. I gently set her down on the bed, then propped myself above her, gazing down at her. She was so mortified, she buried her face in the pillow, leaving only a crimson earlobe for me to see. I pulled her hands away, forcing her to look at me.
Ching-Ching, look at me, my voice carried a hint of command.
She tremblingly opened her eyes, her moist eyes filled with panic and bewilderment. Seeing her so bashful and yet unable to resist, my heart swelled with tenderness and possessiveness.
If we're acting, we're going all the way, I kissed her. No longer a test, no longer a pretense. But with overwhelming tenderness and undeniable aggression.
That night, she transformed from the orchestrator into the little lamb, utterly under my control. The unspoken barrier between us, thin as a cicada's wing, was decisively torn through by me in the most assertive way. The next morning, when I woke, she was still asleep in my arms. Her long eyelashes, like tiny brushes, rested quietly. She seemed to sense my gaze. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Our eyes met. As if burned, she abruptly pushed me away and pulled the blanket over her head. I chuckled softly.
What would you like for breakfast? I'll make it. Her muffled voice came from under the blankets.
Anything.
I got up and dressed, walked to the bed, and patted her through the covers.
Then I'll make sandwiches and milk. Remember to get up and eat. She didn't respond.
I walked out of the room and closed the door. I knew that from today onwards, the director of this play had changed, and I will be the best director. The peaceful days lasted only a few. Qin Feng's retaliation arrived. Leveraging the Qin Group's advantage in the capital market, he joined forces with several rival companies and began to aggressively short Su Corporation's stock in the market. Within a short time, Su Corporation's stock price plummeted, losing nearly $10 billion in market value within 3 days. Panic spread throughout the company, and rumors ran rampant. Su Wanqing had visibly thinned. She left early and returned late every day, spending over 10 hours at the office. At home, she always forced a smile for me, pretending everything was fine.
Yu, the company's been a bit busy lately. I might not have much time for you.
It's okay, you focus on your work, I'll wait for you to come back.
I helped her take off her high heels and offered her slippers. She looked at me, her eyes filled with weariness and apology. That night, she lay in my arms, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. I knew she was anxious about the company's situation. Qin Feng had gleefully announced to the media, hinting that Su Corporation's capital chain was about to break and that it would soon file for bankruptcy. That woman, Su Wanqing, doesn't know what's good for her. It's too late for regrets now. What Qin Feng, can't have, no one else will get. Seeing Qin Feng's arrogant face on the television, I turned it off. Su Wanqing leaned against my shoulder, her body trembling slightly.
Yu, am I very useless?
Don't talk nonsense. You're the most formidable woman I've ever met, trust me, everything will be all right.
In my arms, she finally couldn't hold back and began to cry softly. I gently patted her back. My gaze, however, was icy cold. Qin Feng, you've truly provoked me. After Su Wanqing fell asleep, I quietly got up and walked into the study. I opened the specially customized laptop and simultaneously lit up the 3 display screens on the wall. On the screens, countless red and green K-line charts pulsed frantically. I logged in with an ID named L. Instantly, the trading platforms of major top-tier investment banks around the world received an encrypted, highest privilege command.
Target, Sue Corporation, initiate Guardian plan.
The next second, massive amounts of capital surged into the stock market like a tide. Astronomical buy orders, each an immense sum, furiously slammed into Sue Corporation stock. The stock price, which had been plummeting like a cliff dive, was abruptly buoyed by an invisible, powerful hand, then began to shoot upwards at a terrifying angle. All the institutions and individual investors who were shorting Sue Corporation were stunned. In Qin Feng's trading room, chaos erupted. CEO Qin, it's bad. Mysterious funds have entered the market, buying frantically. We can't hold on. Our short positions are about to be margin called. Qin Feng stared at the blinding red colossal candle on the screen, his eyes nearly bulging out. Who is it? Who exactly is working against me? He didn't know. This was just the beginning. I pulled up all of Qin Feng Group's financial data and leverage information. Utilizing the high leverage vulnerabilities he had created to attack Sue Corporation, I began a textbook perfect hunt. Shorting, exploding, then reversing to long. After a series of combined maneuvers, Qin Feng's capital chain snapped instantly. Not only did he fail to bring down Sue Corporation, but he also drove his own company's stock price to its daily limit down. In just 1 hour, Qin Feng Group's market value evaporated by 30 billion. From heaven to hell. Sue Corporation's crisis was not only resolved, but its stock price even surged to an all-time high, driven by the massive influx of capital. The entire Wall Street and financial circles exploded. Who is L? The legendary mysterious investor L has struck again. My God, 1 hour, moving hundreds of billions in capital, directly crippling a listed company. This is a divine operation. I closed the laptop, the pulsing numbers on the screen settling into stillness. I returned to the bedroom. Sue Wanking was still asleep, but her brows remained tightly furrowed. I lay back beside her and gently pulled her into my embrace.
Silly girl, with me here, how could anything happen to you?
I leaned down and pressed a kiss on her forehead. Conceal my achievements and reputation. The crisis at Sue Corporation was averted, and its stock price surged against the trend. Sue Wanking achieved instant fame, hailed by the business world as an iron rose. To celebrate and stabilize morale, the Sue family hosted a grand victory celebration. At the party, guests were impeccably dressed, and glasses clinked in toasts. Everyone gathered around Sue Wanking, praising her capability and courage. Countless others were curious about the mysterious investor L, who had appeared out of nowhere in their moment of crisis, saving Sue Corporation. CEO Sue, does this Mr. L have any connection to the Sue family? Indeed, such a grand gesture. It was like a divine intervention.
I too would very much like to meet Mr. L and thank him in person.
I stood quietly by her side, a dutiful trophy husband. Just then, a discordant voice rang out. What are you so proud of? You just got incredibly lucky. Qin Feng burst in. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled, and his suit wrinkled. Not a trace of his former swagger remained. He looked like a rabid dog, having lost his last bet, staring intently at me. Sue Wanking, don't get too smug. You'll regret marrying this useless trash eventually. What can he give you? What else can he do besides leeching off you and your money? All eyes in the room instantly focused on us. Security guards immediately stepped forward, intending to escort Qin Feng away. Sue Wanking, however, raised a hand to stop them. She stood in front of me, her tall figure completely shielding me behind her. She looked at Qin Feng, not with anger, but with cold pity. She picked up a glass of red wine from a nearby table and walked towards Qin Feng, step by step. Under everyone's astonished gaze, she poured the entire glass of red wine over Qin Feng's head, from top to bottom.
First, my company. I can protect it myself. I don't need anyone's help. Second, my husband is not trash. He is 10,000 times better than superficial garbage like you.
Her voice was not loud, but every word was clear and resonant, striking like a hammer. Chin Feng was drenched and disheveled, red wine dripping down his face. He stood frozen, unable to utter a single word. Having done all this, Su Wanking turned and walked towards me. Under the gaze of the entire room, amidst the frantic flashes of countless cameras, she cupped my face, stood on tiptoe, and kissed me. The kiss was tender yet firm. She was using this gesture to declare to the whole world, Lin Yu was her man, Su Wanking's man.
No matter who else is, I only want you.
My heart felt as if it had been struck hard by something. So, she wanted nothing else. She only wanted me. I wrapped my arms around her tightly, deepening the kiss. Chin Feng was embarrassingly escorted out by security guards, under the mocking and contemptuous stares of the crowd. Under the flashing lights, I held her, and the whole world became our backdrop. This kiss declared our relationship to be no longer a contract, but love. But I also knew that a greater test still awaited us. Su Wanking's family, especially her extraordinarily shrewd brother, Su Jia. A few days after the banquet, I received a call from Su Jia. Lin Yu, come home for dinner tonight. Grandpa and a few uncles will be there. Su Jia's tone was flat, revealing no discernible emotion, but I knew this was a banquet of the Red Gate variety. It was the Su family's final test for me, their son-in-law. That evening, I followed Su Wanking back to the old Su family mansion. At the long dining table sat the core members of the Su family, each with a serious expression. Chin Feng was even there. He sat next to Su's second uncle, his face pale, but his eyes still full of resentment and unwillingness as he looked at me. It seemed he was here for a final gamble. The dinner began, and the atmosphere was exceptionally heavy. The Su family elders took turns, barraging me with sharp questions. Mr. Lin Yu, may I ask which university you graduated from, and what was your major? What do your parents do for a living, and who else is in your family? What are your thoughts on the future development of Su Corporation? These questions, each more challenging than the last, were laden with condescending scrutiny. Chin Feng, on the side, fanned the flames. Second uncle, what's the point of asking him these things? What insights could a poor graduate fresh out of school possibly have? Every penny he spends now belongs to Wanking. Frankly, he's just a gigolo. Su Wanking's face went pale with anger. She tried to speak several times, but I held her back. I maintained a smile throughout, handling everything with ease. Whether it was business acumen or an analysis of the international financial situation, my answers far exceeded their expectations. When the conversation turned to the thrilling stock market battle a few days prior, I spoke casually, analyzing his operational tactics from capital allocation to attack rhythm and the precise control of market sentiment. My explanations were profound yet accessible, every word a gem of insight. Several elders with financial backgrounds listened, dumbfounded, their gazes shifting from disdain to shock. Su Jia's eyes, too, became more profound. Chin Feng grew anxious. What do you know? You're just talking theoretical nonsense. You speak so eloquently, but why don't you show some real capability? He thought I was merely good with words. I smiled.
Real capability, I happen to have a little bit right here.
I took a USB drive from my pocket and placed it on the table.
These are all the proofs of CEO Chin's illegal embezzlement of Chin Corporation's public funds a few days ago, collaborating with offshore funds in an attempt to maliciously acquire Su Corporation shares. Including records of fund transfers and recordings of your secret calls.
These evidences, which I had his legal team prepare overnight, were undeniable. Chin Feng's face instantly turned ashen. He pointed at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Su's second uncle's expression also became extremely grim. I stood up, walked to Chin Feng, and looked down at him.
Chin Feng, the game is over. You've not only lost in business, but you've also lost your integrity.
Su Jia gave me a deep look, then finally stood up and raised his wine glass. He walked up to me and patted my shoulder. My sister. I'm entrusting her to you from now on. This single sentence signified the Su family's acceptance. This banquet with the red gate, I had one. Chin Feng was ashen-faced, slumped in his chair. I looked at him, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart. From a moment he decided to harm Su Wanqing, his fate was sealed. The banquet ended, and I was preparing to leave with Su Wanqing. Suja, however, called out to me, "Lin Yu, let's talk alone." His expression was more serious than ever before. Suja led me to the back garden of the old mansion. He offered me a cigarette and lit one for himself. In the swirling smoke, his face appeared somewhat blurred. "You've been hiding pretty deep, kid." He took a drag from his cigarette, slowly exhaling. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "The camera was fake," he spoke abruptly. My heart stirred, but my expression remained placid.
From the very beginning, there were no cameras, no surveillance.
"That was a play Wanqing and I conspired to put on for you." Suja turned, looking at me with sharp eyes. "That silly girl Wanqing. For you, she was willing to defy the entire family. She said she wouldn't marry anyone but you. If the family disagreed, she'd give up everything at Su Corporation. As her brother, I couldn't just stand by and watch her jump into a fire pit. I had to be sure you were worth her doing all this." He extinguished his cigarette, but a hint of apology in his tone. "So, I gave her that idea. I wanted to see what you would do when faced with an ice queen and forced to share a bed with you. Would you take advantage of the situation, or would you remain a gentleman?" Later, when Chin Feng moved against Su Corporation, it became an even better litmus test. I wanted to see, when disaster struck, whether you, the live-in son-in-law, would abandon her or stand by her side. Turns out, your performance, kid, far exceeded my expectations. Both your quick-witted responses at the banquet and your analysis of LS tactics prove that you are no ordinary person. While I don't know your exact relationship with L, that's no longer important. He walked over and clapped me firmly on the shoulder. "I was wrong. Brother, I apologize for my earlier tests. My sister is in your hands. I feel relieved." He took a black USB drive from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. "These are all the dirty deeds the Chin family has committed over the years, with irrefutable evidence. Chin Feng is a desperate dog who will lash out when cornered, so be careful yourself. From now on, you are my real brother-in-law, and Shuncheng, if anyone dares to touch you, they'll have to ask my permission first." The last trace of estrangement between us vanished with his words. I had gained a true brother-in-law. I returned home to find Su Wanqing sitting on the sofa, waiting for me anxiously. Seeing me enter, she immediately stood up.
Yu, my brother, he didn't make things difficult for you, did he?
I looked at her nervous expression, feeling both tender and amused. I walked over and hugged her tightly.
"Your brother confessed."
I whispered, my lips close to her ear.
"About the cameras."
Her body instantly stiffened. In my arms, she was so mortified she couldn't lift her head, wishing she could disappear into the floor. I held her, feeling her warm body and her frantic heartbeat. All the lies and tests had come to an end. But the USB drive in my pocket, like a brand, reminded me that things were not yet over. Chin Feng would definitely not give up so easily. Chin Feng's retaliation came swifter and more savage than I had imagined. He had been utterly abandoned by the Chin family, his reputation in tatters, his career in ruins. A man who had fallen from the heights to the depths. His heart now harbored nothing but an all-consuming madness to destroy everything. That afternoon, I was at the company handling some follow-up affairs for El Capital.
I'm not working late tonight. How about we go see a movie? That sci-fi film you've been wanting to watch.
"Sounds good, I'll book the tickets then, and wait for you downstairs at your company."
Okay, I'll just pop to the restroom first. See you soon.
From the other end of the line, I heard her cheerful footsteps and the sharp click of her heels against the floor. I was just about to hang up when a shrill shriek suddenly erupted from her end of the line.
Ah.
This was followed by the clatter of a phone hitting the ground and a man's brutal shouts. "Shut up, scream again, and I'll kill you." My heart instantly plunged into a bottomless pit. An ominous premonition, like a dark cloud, descended upon me. The call disconnected. I immediately redialed, but there was no answer. The next second, an unfamiliar number flashed on my screen. I answered, and Qin Feng's maniacal laughter echoed from the other end.
Lin, you didn't see this coming, did you? Ha ha ha. Your wife is in my hands now.
Over the phone, I heard Su Wanking's muffled sobs, her mouth covered, and the sounds of her fierce struggle. My blood instantly froze.
Want her to live? Come alone to the abandoned cement factory on the city's outskirts. Remember, no police.
If I see a single police officer, or if you don't arrive within an hour, you can prepare to collect her corpse. The call ended. My hand clutched the phone, veins bulging, knuckles creaking from the sheer force. A tidal wave of unprecedented fury erupted from my chest, threatening to incinerate my very reason. Qin Feng, you've sealed your own fate. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Anger wouldn't solve anything. I didn't call the police. Against a desperate man like Qin Feng, involving the police would only incite him, putting Su Wanqing in even greater danger. I dialed another number, a number I had sworn I would never use again. The phone rang only once before it was answered, a steady, calm male voice coming from the other end.
Wolf King, what are your orders?
Initiate Guardian Protocol Level 1.
My voice was chillingly calm, devoid of any tremor.
Pinpoint my location, target the abandoned cement factory on the city's outskirts, in 5 minutes, bring in the team to close the net, clear the perimeter, and leave no one alive.
Understood, Wolf King.
Hanging up, I shed my suit jacket and retrieved a black tactical backpack from the deepest safe in my office. I changed into dark tactical gear, pulling on military combat boots. My usual gentle, harmless demeanor vanished completely. In its place was a predatory ruthlessness and icy calm. I looked at the stranger in the mirror, my eyes now devoid of any tenderness. Qin Feng, you should never have, not in a million years, crossed my line. My line is Su Wanqing. The night was inky black. The abandoned cement factory lay like a colossal beast, prostrate in the darkness, exuding an aura of decay and danger. I didn't enter through the main gate. Like a wildcat, I silently scaled the 2-meter-high wall, landing without a whisper of sound. Darkness was my domain. The air was thick with the scent of engine oil and dust. Based on the wind direction and sounds, I pinpointed 2 sentries on the perimeter. One was on the crane at 3 o'clock, the other in a derelict truck at 9 o'clock. I pulled a military crossbow from my tactical backpack, loading 2 tranquilizer-tipped bolts. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 faint hisses through the air. The sentry on the crane plummeted down without so much as a grunt. The one in the truck was still playing on his phone when I neutralized him. Like a phantom, I infiltrated the main factory building. Inside the factory, it was brightly lit. Qin Feng had hired 7 or 8 desperados, casually sitting or standing, each armed with a machete or steel pipe. Su Wanqing was tied to a concrete pillar, a gag stuffed in her mouth, her face streaked with tears, yet her eyes held an extraordinary defiance. Qin Feng sat on a chair opposite her, idly toying with a sharp dagger, a morbid smile on his face. Wanqing, tell me, do you think that useless man will come save you? I bet he's a coward, probably peed his pants in fear by now.
Su Wanqing glared at him, struggling with muffled cries.
Using the factory's complex pillars and derelict machinery for cover, I approached the thugs one by one, necks snapped, stunned with a hand chop, silently taken down. The entire process was fluid and seamless, without a single superfluous sound. When I appeared before Qin Feng, he was alone. He was using the flat of his dagger to tap Su Wanqing's cheek, ceaselessly cursing. You, how did you get in here? Qin Feng, seeing me, sprang from his chair in terror, as if he'd seen a ghost. The 7 or 8 men he had hired were already silently sprawled in various corners of the factory. Su Wanqing, seeing me, instantly brightened, but she bit back her sobs, afraid of distracting me. I ignored Qin Feng's terror. My gaze was solely fixed on Su Wanqing, seeing the tear streaks on her face and her muffled mouth. My heart clenched painfully. I stared at Qin Feng, advancing towards him step by step.
Release her, And I can grant you a dignified end.
My voice was devoid of emotion. Don't come any closer. If you take another step, I'll kill her. Terrified by my presence, Chin Feng roughly yanked Su Wanking closer, pressing the sharp dagger against her fair throat. His hand trembled with agitation, and the keen blade instantly sliced Su Wanking's delicate skin. A single drop of bright red blood trickled down her neck. My pupils constricted abruptly. The next second, I moved. My figure was swift as lightning. With a flick of my wrist, a coin shot from my fingertips, whistling sharply through the air, striking Chin Feng's dagger-wielding wrist with pinpoint accuracy. Ah! Chin Feng cried out in agony, his grip loosening from the pain. The moment he released his grip, I was already upon him. A clean, decisive hand chop slammed into his neck. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed softly.
I'm sorry, I was late.
In my arms, she sobbed aloud. Outside the factory, the piercing wail of police sirens grew closer, encircling the entire cement plant. I held her, gently patting her back. She looked up, her eyes clouded with tears, staring at me, filled with shock, lingering fear, and countless questions.
See you.
I knew that all my secrets could no longer be hidden. Xincheng First People's Hospital, VIP ward.
I dipped a cotton swab in iodophor, carefully disinfecting the scratch on Su Wanking's neck. The wound was shallow, but the red mark still stung my eyes.
She said nothing, just watched me quietly. Since leaving the abandoned factory, she had been looking at me this way. That gaze was no longer that of a neighborhood younger brother, nor that of a husband of convenience. It was the gaze reserved for a completely unfamiliar, unfathomable man.
Does it hurt much?
I asked softly. She shook her head. After disinfecting, I applied a Band-Aid.
There, all done.
I put away the first aid kit, preparing to get up, but she held onto my hand.
Who exactly are you?
She finally asked the question. I knew this moment would come eventually. I sat back down, taking her cold hand in mine.
I'm sorry, Ching, I lied to you. I no longer concealed anything, from how I had quietly built the massive commercial empire, capital using patents and investments made during university, to how I had once enlisted in the military, joined the most mysterious special forces unit, Wolf's Fang, and became the strongest soldier, codenamed Wolf King, and then, after my retirement, how I returned to this city in search of a peaceful life. I told her everything.
She listened quietly, without the surprise or fear I had imagined on her face. After I finished, she simply smiled, a trace of understanding in her expression.
Actually, I always suspected you weren't simple, she said. From how you left my shrewd uncles speechless at the family banquet, from how you effortlessly analyzed LS trading tactics, and tonight, how you appeared before me like a deity. How could my husband be an ordinary person?
She took out the diary I had accidentally discovered from under her pillow and handed it to me.
Now it's my turn. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. I'm sorry, Suyu. I lied to you too. There were no cameras at all. That was a lie I made up to get closer to you.
I held her hand, bringing it to my lips for a soft kiss.
I know.
She froze. I also know that the password to your diary is my birthday.
She froze completely. Then her face flushed crimson, even her ears burning. Seeing her adorable mixture of shyness and embarrassment, I could no longer resist and leaned down to kiss her. The kiss was tender and lingering. After a long while, our lips parted. I rested my forehead against hers, looking at the tears sliding from the corners of her eyes.
Ching, I love you. It started in high school, the first time I saw you quietly reading by the window. I worked hard to become excellent, to make money, all so that one day, I could be worthy of standing by your side.
The tears in her eyes could no longer be controlled, flowing freely.
Me too.
She choked out in my arms, giving her all to return this hug and kiss that had been too long in coming.
Me too, Suyu. I've loved you for 10 years.
Outside, the city awakened to the first light of dawn. All lies and secrets were unveiled. It turned out we had long been journeying towards each other in the river of time. This mutually harbored secret love finally reached its most perfect conclusion at daybreak.
1 year later. Qin Feng was sentenced to life imprisonment for kidnapping, intentional assault, and multiple economic crimes. The Qin Group, not long after that upheaval, declared bankruptcy. My L capital deeply integrated with Su Corporation, forming the new Yuan Qin Group, whose business footprint expanded unprecedentedly, becoming a premier business conglomerate in the country. Su Wanqing in my married life was sweet and authentic, no longer requiring any acting. Suja would drop by our home for meals every other day, ostensibly inspecting the emotional state of his sister and brother-in-law. But in reality, he was always stuffed to the brim with our public displays of affection. He often grumbled that once our child was born, he absolutely had to be the godfather. Today marked the first anniversary of our marriage registration. I left work early, personally cooked, prepared a table of her favorite dishes, and bought a large bouquet of her preferred white roses. I wanted to give her a surprise. The door opened. Su Wanqing returned. Seeing the room full of roses and the table laden with food, she paused, then bloomed into a radiant smile.
Husband, what special occasion is today?
Our wedding anniversary, my dearest wife.
I walked over and embraced her from behind. She turned in my arms, stood on tiptoe, and kissed my lips.
I have a gift for you too.
From her bag, she took out a brown paper envelope and handed it to me.
What's this?
I took it puzzled.
Open it and see.
She said, winking mysteriously. I tore open the envelope and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a pregnancy test report, the words 6 weeks pregnant, and the small ultrasound image exploded in my mind like a clap of thunder.
I'm going to be a father.
The immense surprise left me frozen on the spot, my hands trembling as I held the thin paper, unable to utter a single word for a long time. Su Wanqing chuckled, watching my stunned expression. She walked over, took my hand, and gently placed it on her flat stomach.
Mr. Lin, our agreement, I'm afraid, will need to be renewed for a lifetime.
I snapped back to reality, pulled her tightly into my embrace, tears of joy streaming uncontrollably down my cheeks.
Ching Ching, I love you.
I love you too, husband.
Outside, the setting sun bathed the entire living room in a golden glow. We stood, embracing, smiling at each other. The future, boundless happiness, belonged to our family of 3.